So okay guys, this is Dr. Mandeep Saini again. So in the last video we have talked about how do you collect references from Google Scholar and your library website. Now we also talked about how can you arrange those citations in your in a table and then write the critical analysis. Now once you have all those citations arranged, after that you can start writing your challenges. So, for example, you are going to write about lack of communication. Then, when you are writing about lack of communication, you just need to focus on those 4 citations and you can just start writing about that challenge. So, to come up with a critical analysis, you can talk about 4 different views or the similarity or differences of the views, or if there is anything which is surprising or irrelevant or relevant findings, you can think about that as well when you are writing the critical analysis. So I got another video on critical analysis which you can watch later on, and I'm going to come up with a couple of more videos on critical analysis which will give you the different ways to critically analyze something, but some of the example I'm going to show you today as well. Now on that, so since we have already collected the references that is coming from the published media, which is from your library or Google Scholar, so basically we are focusing on either the Google Scholar or any journal articles or the government website, any published books, or legitimate citations, a legitimate source of information. So that is what we need to focus on. What are not legitimate source, for example the Wikipedia or some website or some random blogs, or for example website like Quora, those are not the legitimate sources. The legitimate sources are which are peer reviewed, which has an editor or the reviewer who have reviewed the work, and then you have those articles were published, so those are peer reviewed. So basically we are focusing on either journals or the books or the government website, which is the legitimate source of information. You can also look for professional body website, for example the PSRBs, which are APM, Association of Project Management, RICS, Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyor, and there are several others, CIPS, which is Chartered Institute of Purchasing and Supply. So those are the which we call as PSRB, professional bodies. So those are legitimate source of information as well. Now since you had the list of references, let's move on to how you are going to write those sentences. Now before we talk about how you are going to write, I'm going to show you an example what are the issues when students are writing about the references. So one of the major issue is that when somebody is writing about the analysis or writing the critical analysis and just giving 1 or 2 citations, that is not very relevant. So for example, in this example, lean construction is a new way to manage work over the life of a project. So that is just 1 sentence, and after that in continuity, it is not a productive improvement program. So Sachs et al. In 2010 talked about the lean construction is new way to manage work. Okay, that is fine. Now in the other sentence you are talking about also Smith 2015 stated that lean construction is a modern way to design and build capital facilities. That is fine as well. Now to start an argument just providing 1 citation to 1 view. So for example, over here Sachs' view is that lean construction is a new way to manage work, which is fine. But how can we rely on just 1 source of information? We got several different type of information available. There are several articles which have been written on lean construction and how lean construction work. Is it a new way to manage work, or it is a productive improvement program, or it is not a productive improvement program? So there could be many other articles on the similar view, but over here we are only using 1 citation. Now we can't just rely on 1 source of information when we are writing something like that. So That is, I would say, that is not a an example of bad writing style, but that is not the most relevant writing styles when you are going to critically analyze something. But most of the students, they do it, they write it in that way, that they are putting citation either in the at the end of the sentence or in the beginning of the sentence, and they are just putting one citations, which is, again, it is not a bad way to write an assignment, as long as you are providing citations to all the statements you are giving. Now, the bad way of writing an assignment or writing an argument is when you have one complete paragraph like this one and you only got one citation at the end of the paragraph. That is the bad way of academic writing. So because you got several statements going on here, so you must cite it with the relevant references. Now, this is it. It can be much better. Now, as an example, again, when we go back to your table and you're writing about, when we go back to a table and you got writing about lack of communication and you got 4 citations, so you are just telling the story briefly over here. When you are citing, okay, this person said this, the other person said that, other person said added on the view, and the fourth person said that. Okay, so that is more like describing thing. It is not a critical analysis. You have to be careful when you write a critical analysis. So basically, when you are giving citation, you are writing about in-text citations. You need to think about how or what style of citation you need first thing. So as an example, that you are talking about one of the citation from Smith, which is published in 2015. So citation could be Smith 2015. So that becomes your citation. So which is in-text citations, in-text reference. Now that is the way. So you need to consider what type of which style of citation you need to use in your assignment. That should be given on your assessment brief. If it is not given on your assessment brief, you should ask your tutor about that citation style. So that is one of the thing. Now, quotation marks, sometimes students use quotation mark in the citation, so that could be relevant, but I would suggest that don't use too many quotation marks. If you use so many quotation marks, and even though you give citation, that is not a relevant academic writing. So quotation mark we normally use when you are talking about any definition or something. For example, on this page, you are looking at the definition that Lewis 1997, page 32, which is coming from a book. So that page 32 tells us that this is a citation from a book written by Lewis in 1997. Now, that defines that project management is the planning, scheduling, and controlling of project activities to meet project objectives. So that is a definition talking about project management. What is project management? So project management is the planning and scheduling and controlling. So that type of definition, where you don't want to change the terminologies of project management, or which you can't rephrase, then, or you can't paraphrase, you can just keep it as it is, but do not keep so many of those quotations. Putting quotations are relevant when you are writing about definition or the main terminology which you don't want to change. You can use it as quotation, but at the same time, you can use quotation when you are interviewing people and you just want to keep their view as it is, whatever they said in the interview. So you can use quotation there as well when you are analyzing your interviews for your dissertation or your PhD thesis. Now, don't use too much quotation. That is irrelevant. Don't use too much bullet points as well in academic writing. So let's look at this example. Now, this example is about multiple in-text reference, like I showed you in the table that you got multiple in-text references over there. So over here, what is happening that you, for example, you have multiple citations. You already collected citation from Google Scholar or your library website or journals or wherever, or from the books. Then you are talking about that. Now, in this example, it talks about that person 1, 2, 3, 4, people all agreed that delay in construction project is caused by the lack of communication between the teams. So they all are agreeing. You are looking at what is delay in construction project, how that is being caused. So delay in construction project, it is a challenge. How that is being caused, because of lack of communication. So lack of communication is the main challenge, and that is why, because of lack of communication, delay in construction project is happening. So over here, when you search for the articles to establish that fact, then why the delay in construction is happening, and you came up with that is because lack of communication, and you found 4 articles. So you can have multiple in-text references, multiple in-text citations, which is person 1, person 2, person 3, and person 4 said, or they all agreed that delay in construction project. So you can use that multiple citation. That gives us the understanding as a marker, or that gives your tutor or the reader an understanding that you have explored a variety of citations, a variety of articles to come up with that point. So when you are writing in the other slide, in the other example earlier, when you were writing a sentence and just giving one example, that means the information is coming from, when you give one citation only, that means the information is coming from just one source. Now, in this example, information is coming from 4 different sources. So that means it is valid information. Many people are talking about that. But I would say don't put so many in-text citations as well for one argument. Keep them for several arguments. So let's suppose if you found 20 articles that all talk about delay in construction project is caused by the lack of communication, you should not be putting 20 citations in that sentence. I have suggested in the other video, when I talked about how can you find articles on Google Scholar and the library, I have suggested that time as well, that you can look for the most relevant articles based on that argument. So most relevant could be based on the citation, or could be based on the year. So for example, if you are looking for citation from year between 2020 to 2023, so that becomes the most relevant citation. So you just only take those. Now, in that example, let's move further. Now, that is the first statement, that they all agreed that delay in construction project caused by communication between teams. And then, however, using a conjunction word, which is joining the story here, 4 other people, so 1, 2, 3, 4, actually 5 other people, so 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 other people, they disagree that the cause of delay in construction project was not the lack of communication. So 4 people are saying yes, it was lack of communication, but 5 other people are saying no, that wasn't the lack of communication, that was lack of project planning. So they are saying that this was because of lack of project planning. So that gives a critical analysis, that you critically analyzing 2 different type of information while considering several different sources and supporting what your argument is. So you are giving the supporting evidence to your argument while using several citations. So that is the way you should be writing an academic piece of work. Either it is an assessment or it is your dissertation. That is multiple in-text referencing. So giving the reference, when you have the table arranged, it gives you a focus that these are the references, these are the citations, the most relevant citations for your assignment or the argument you are establishing in your assessment or in your dissertation. So when you know all that, it will become much more easier for you to identify or to write the critical analysis. So I would suggest you use that way. Create a table. Once you find all the articles, create a table, arrange the table based on the challenges or critical factors or based on whatever argument you are looking for. and then put the citations next to it. And when you start writing, you already know which citations you are going to use for which argument, and then you can arrange the arguments in that way. So that will make your life much easier, that this is the way you are writing. So guys, thank you very much. We'll come back in the with the next video. In that we will talk about how do you paraphrase when you are citing some other's work, and what is the best way for paraphrasing. Thank you very much.